Welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. Recommend us to your friends and family, as well as share information on social media. It will help us a lot. Thank you. My name is Artem, and here is the news. 162 days less the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The international human rights organization Amnesty International published a report from which it follows that Ukrainian troops violate the laws of war by placing military equipment and weapons in schools, hospitals, and residential areas, reports Ukrainska Pravda. Amnesty International said that this tactic of the Ukrainian army endangers civilians. They called on the Ukrainian government to immediately ensure the placement of its forces away from populated areas or evacuate the civilian population from areas where the military is operating. At the same time, human rights defenders emphasized that this in no way justifies chaotic Russian attacks on civilian objects. The report caused wide public outcry in Ukrainian society. Both officials and civil society activists, including human rights defenders, criticized the report. Media pointed out the fact that while criticizing Ukraine's actions, Amnesty International hasn't made any statement on the recent killing of 50 Ukrainian prisoners of war by Russia in Olenivka. Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine Dmytro Kuleba believes that the statement of Amnesty International is not aimed at finding and reporting the truth to the world, but at creating a false balance between the criminal and his victim. The minister called on Amnesty International to stop creating a fake reality in which everyone is a little guilty of something. Defense Minister of Ukraine Oleksiy Reznikov said that the only reason why hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians are still alive, although they could have already died, and that millions have a home, although they could have lost it, is the selfless heroic acts of the defense forces of Ukraine. Quote, any attempt to question the right of Ukrainians to resist genocide, to protect their families and homes, to protect their lives and the lives of their children, to resist the actions of Russia as a terrorist state, is a perversion no matter what legal phrases disguise it. Any attempt to even casually equate unprovoked Russian aggression with Ukrainian self-defense, as done in the Amnesty International article, is evidence of a loss of adequacy and a way to destroy one's authority, unquote. In his evening video address, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky informed that the Russian forces shelled at Toretsk, Donetsk region, hitting a public transport stop. 8 people were killed, 3 children were among those injured. He pointed out that we do not see clear any timely reports from any international organizations regarding this and thousands of other crimes committed by Russian troops. At the same time, we saw a completely different report from Amnesty International, which unfortunately tries to amnesty the terrorist state and shift the responsibility from the aggressor to the victim, said Zelensky. He stressed that there cannot be, even hypothetically, any condition under which any Russian attack on Ukraine becomes justified. And if someone makes a report in which the victim and the aggressor are allegedly the same, if some data about the victim is analyzed and what the aggressor was doing at the time is ignored, this cannot be tolerated. The president believes that anyone who excuses Russia and who artificially creates such an informational context in which some attacks by terrorists are supposedly justified or supposedly understandable cannot but realize that it helps the terrorists. Head of the Amnesty International Ukraine, Oksana Pokalchuk, released a statement regarding the situation, saying that the controversial report was prepared without participation of the Amnesty team in Ukraine. According to her, the team in Kyiv reported about the inadmissibility and incompleteness of such material, but their arguments were not taken into account. They convinced the authors to get an official comment from the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine prior to the publication, but they did not give enough time to receive an answer and published the research without the comment. Pokalchuk stressed that Amnesty International Ukraine refused to publish this report on their website or to translate it into Ukrainian due to its one-sidedness. The Secretary General of Amnesty International, Agnes Kalamar, said that criticism of their reports will not weaken the impartiality of the organization, reports Correspondent. She called those who criticized the report on social media trolls who are spreading war propaganda and disinformation. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky gave an interview to the South China Morning Post, reports Interfax Ukraine. The president believes that China has economic leverage to put pressure on Vladimir Putin in order to end the war. He expressed confidence that without the Chinese market, Russia would feel in complete economic isolation, and this is exactly what China should do. The president of Ukraine also expressed his desire to have a phone conversation with the Chinese leader and has been sending requests about such direct call since the start of the invasion. The General Staff of Ukraine informs that the Russian forces are actively using artillery against Ukrainian positions along the entire front line, reports Grunt Media. In the Donetsk region, the enemy is conducting an offensive operation in the Bakhmut and Avdiivka directions. It is trying to create favorable conditions for taking over cities of Soledar and Bakhmut and to expand the controlled territory on the western outskirts of the city of Donetsk. In the Mykolaiv direction, the Russian troops are concentrating their main efforts on preventing the advance of Ukrainian forces. The Russian court sentenced American basketball player Brittany Griner to 9 years in prison for drug possession and smuggling, reports UNN. The US President Joe Biden described the jail term as unacceptable and called for her immediate release. Our Patreon supporters get access to a cool new series on wartime life in Ukraine. To join the club, follow the link in the description below. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine. Thank you.